Thanks so much, Blake. Our last reader tonight is our book launch guest. We're super excited for her new book. So after the reading, you can find hers and Taya's books on the table. I'm sure they'd be happy to sign them for you. So I'll introduce Meg. Meg Freitag was born in Maine. She is the author of Edith, selected by Dorianne Laux. Laux, as winner of the 2016 BOAAT Book Prize. She has a BA from Sarah Lawrence College and an MFA from the University of Texas, Austin, where she was a Michener Fellow. Her work can be found in Tin House, Boston Review, Black Warrior Review, and Indiana Review, among other journals. Please give a warm welcome to Meg.
Assistant Mark. Thank you guys so much for coming out here. This is really, really wonderful. This is a very, very special moment for me, and I'm just so excited to be here in Austin and sharing it with so many dear friends and family members. Thank you, Malvern, for hosting this, and thank you so much, Blake and Taya, for reading with me. This is such a treat. So I'm not gonna read too many poems from this book because I know no one really likes a poetry reading that goes on too long. So I'm just gonna read a handful. And so the narrative of this, there's a loose narrative that kind of courses throughout this book. Probably a lot of you in here know kind of the theme of the book already, but it's about the speaker of the poems loses a dear friend who happens to be a parakeet named Edith, and at the beginning of the book she's still alive, and then she dies at some part, a little halfway through the first part of the book, and then the rest of the book is kind of the speaker dealing with the loss of Edith. So I'm going to try to preserve the integrity of the narrative a little bit during this reading. The first poem I'm going to read is the very first poem in the book. It's called When Edith Doesn't Have a Body. Can everyone hear me okay? Okay. When Edith doesn't have a body. Nothing else to do with my fingers. I shell pistachios into a red plastic cup. I leave the meats in a little pile beside the brass ashtray, like I would when Edith still had such thing as an appetite, before I started thinking about heaven, like a two-way mirror laid down for her to walk on. It's almost like she just started flying, but then didn't stop. Except it didn't happen that way. Edith died on the kitchen floor, halfway beneath the radiator. It took me an hour to find her. And when I finally did, I wanted to call to her in the other room, saying, Edith, I found her. I wanted to say to her, Edith, are you perched tight? Because shit, this is going to break your heart. So the next poem is called The Sky Inside the Body. Depression isn't always depressing. Some days it's soft and magical, as pulling a rabbit from your waistcoat. Some days it's sill-chilled vodka in an old salsa jar, and all the mirrors turn around so the walls have to stare at themselves while you eat a bowl of Cheerios, milkless and guiltless. Something inside you lies down and closes its eyes, and so begins the selective process of existence. You live entire lifetimes, some days, from your bed. You'll feel the tenderest parts of the last decade all at once, your heart cleaved wide as the sky, and everything that ever sat atop it appears again, but each its own soundless star, each so pronounced and fine you can read them back to yourself like Braille. And the great sadnesses, all of them, quieted down until they are only as loud as the junkie in your neighbor's alley scavenging the recycling bin, and then only as loud as the dripping bathtub faucet, and then just the sun tapping against the clouds as it sinks, the moon with its tiny drill boring a white hole in the wooden sky. I wish you understood me, Edith. Sometimes I think you do. You turn your head from left to right to look at me with one eye, then the other, to see if I'm the same on both sides. So this next poem is called What Small Death Shines Up from the Dirt, and it was one of the first ones that I had published from this collection. It's a little racy. Just warning you. I think I've been trying to replace you, Edith. Lately, I've lit fires in my mouth that can only be put out with another mouth. He and I found a baby rattlesnake injured in the middle of the road, half its body stuck to the blacktop, the other half looping around and around its own busted part like a busy signal. He said, "The babies are the most dangerous." "Everyone knows that," I said. But still he had to stop me from wrapping the leftover part of the snake up in my t-shirt and carrying it home. I thought if I saved it, it would be so grateful it wouldn't try to hurt me. Edith, I'm afraid I can only love myself if someone else loves me first. One time I let him have me against the sink in a TJ Maxx bathroom, and we didn't even leave our merchandise outside. One time I was so afraid of sharks, I had a panic attack in a paddle boat while my cousin yelled at me over and over, "We're in a goddamn lake." One time I had a dream I saw 100 of my own heads on wooden stakes, but they were tiny, like a tray of hors d'oeuvres. One time I had a dream that the dog ate you and choked on your beak and also died. One time I thought I loved someone I hardly knew at all. Long ago, I saw a hawk in a tree disemboweling a baby prairie dog. I was with a child, and instinctively I put my hand over his eyes. But the guts, Edith, I couldn't take my own eyes off them. How they shone in the dirt like wet rubies, or like something you don't know you're even looking for in the moment when you finally find it. This next poem is called I Had This Dream About Kayaks and You Were in It. Sometimes grief is chief. That's better. Okay, I'll start that over. Sometimes grief is chief. Sometimes there are chiggers in the tall grass out where you're walking the dog in your nightgown. Some nights you can't see the moon, or its edges are so smudged by ghost clouds that you can't tell where it even really begins. Sometimes nothing comes up Meg for weeks on end. When I first found out that most of the stars we see are already dead, I took it very personally. I have been told I'm the kind of person who takes things personally. Sometimes the dog gets out, at night and runs around in the street with the tires of cars just missing her, and I feel like my heart has been divided in two and half of it is inside her, and I am angry that she is so reckless with it. But she'll never really understand what it means to anticipate a loss. She just wants some good sniffs and doesn't know why I am always trying to keep her from what she wants most. I've been having those kinds of anxiety nightmares where he and I are trying to get to the airport, but we have to take a kayak there and end up in a very high traffic kayak area. Our kayak bangs against the others. Filthy water sloshes up into my lap. My traveling outfit is, of course, ruined. The couple next door trying to fuck their headboard through my bedroom wall at dawn this morning hadn't any idea that I recently broke up with someone. They just thought they were being the regular kind of inconsiderate. Sometimes in the morning, you haven't even opened your second eye yet, and already you're texting your ex-boyfriend to tell him about the dream you had, about kayaks. Sometimes in your sleep, you'll get a bloody nose and swallow all the blood, wake up once your stomach gets full to throw it up. Last night at Walmart, the couple in front of me in line was buying a single Slim Jim to share. I missed him so much in that moment, it felt like I was full of collapsing stars. A deep, round ache accompanied by regular sharp stabs, like being in a bathtub full of crushed ice with little bits of glass mixed in. I could feel it in my teeth. I could feel all the blood moving through me with great effort, like it was full of seeds. Edith, the worst thing about endings isn't the ending itself, but the beginning again. How tiring it is to retell and retell that story about the scar on the palm of your hand. How you climbed a fence to skinny dip in a swimming pool at night when you were 22. How you made it into the pool just fine and felt so much joy splashing around in the water. How climbing the fence a second time to get out, that's when everything went wrong. So this next poem I'm gonna read is special in that it has two themed snacks at the snack table. I guess it's for freshmen. Maybe that's the appropriate word. But there's two snacks that make an appearance in this poem. And this one is called, and I hope you're all enjoying the nacho cheese flavored Doritos, the Diet Dr. Pepper. So this is called I Have Come to Demand the Light I'm Used to. Edith, I'm done with things that are bigger than me. The moon can go fuck itself, for instance. The moon with its eyes full of unkind marbles, its hands like two slabs of flank meat on an iridescent tray. I used to think the moon was mine and shy, how it followed me everywhere at a distance. One night each month, the moon wouldn't show up. I'd call and call, thinking I'd done something to scare it away. Edith, I'm done with things that don't come when I call them. When I was younger, I studied grief, like an artist studies art history, trying to see what others had already done with it in order to do it better. I walked around at night, watching grief as it shone blue as milk out the windows of people's houses. Edith, I'm afraid all the time. Edith, my life is a long sequence of self-fulfilled prophecies. When I found you beneath the radiator, what was left of you, like a teaspoon of strawberry jam, it all made so much sense, that feeling. For a while, I wasn't afraid of anything. Truth is, I feel safest when I'm lonesome. To truly love someone is spooky as hell. I'm always waiting for a roof beam to fall on his head, for a pack of wolves to get in through the doggy door while we're sleeping, or him to leave me at a gas station, for him to just get in the car and drive away while I'm standing in line with a pocket full of quarters, waiting to buy 2 Diet Dr. Peppers. So the Diet Dr. Pepper is the obvious one that's over there, but when we cut into the cake, let's see the other one. That sounds like super creepy. So I'm gonna read 2 more poems. This penultimate poem is actually I think it's a poem. It's one of the most recent poems in the collection. It's not published anywhere. I don't really think I've shared it with many people. So this one is called Poem for Meg. That's me. I have loved like someone leaving all the lights on all night long. Like even the white cotton sun was stuck at its crux above the houses, perpetually swabbing the iodine sky, and no one the whole world over slept for 4 years. I have loved like being very small, swimming in a saucer of warm milk with no eyes. I have loved like a glass of water on the bedside table with no water in it. I have loved like a ghost, wearing a bedsheet ghost costume as a disguise. Last week, there was still a buoyant spot on the wall from the face of his watch, disappearing for a half second each time he turned a page in his book. It never fails to astound me the way each person has so many different creatures inside them. Take me, for instance, a golden lab lapping the condensation from a bottle of beer, a hunter that wants to make sure he can kill the animal with the first shot as to not cause it unnecessary suffering, a child who does nothing but pretend to sleep, and this single demonic little snake. I am beginning again my life a sheet at the foot of the bed, 2 holes where my eyes once were. At dusk, the grocery store parking lot fills up with ugly blue-black birds. They dye the sky. Mothers walk by, pressing their hands to their children's ears. In the false night, I sit in my car and eat a small white cake. It was half off, someone else's name already written on it in green gel. Someone with my same name. With a plastic fork, I eat it all. Meg, I eat our entire cake, and it is delicious. So much lighter than I thought it would be. So the last poem I'm going to read is the last poem in the book. And this one is called Edith Washes Up in the River of Forgetting. Edith, you are the salt. Edith, you are the death. Edith, when I call out to you, sand pours out of my mouth, filling the hourglass I didn't realize I was holding. Edith, you are the ultimate upending. Edith, you are the list of reasons why I couldn't and sometimes still can't. When I die, I want to turn so small I can ride your back through the calfskin breezes of hereafter. I want to drink my reunion cocktail from the hollow of a rabbit's Let's. I always freeze about how to pronounce this word. I think Dean's actually helped me out with it before. Lethe, the river Lethe. So sorry. So I'm just going to read that one line again. Edith, I've caught you with your wingtips in the river Lethe. Drink from it if you must, but leave yourself a note to save a place for me beside you on the shore. Once we're young again with dumbness, we can begin the renaming of things. And I love you, but I'm too messed up will be a jar turned over on the floor with a spider trapped inside it. A thank you, but I'm through will be a hand using its fingers like legs to creep across a table towards your little bowl of figs. But this isn't even real gold will be the moon with its belly full of white watermelon seeds. And Edith will be a sketchbook open on the bed full of the most exquisite drawings of ordinary horses. Thank you.